Lots of stuff, and including my favorite short barrel rifles, right?
I hope so.
All right, perfect.
How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
You think our country's headed in the right direction?
No.
So, what did Osama bin Laden's ghost say to Mitt Romney? Don't worry, President Obama's foreign policy killed me too. So, we really are headed in the wrong direction. Everybody knows it. But before I get talking about political solutions, I always start off my speeches by simply saying that our hope is not in man, our hope is in Jesus Christ. Amen?
Amen.
In Washington State, I will start with the positives, and let me actually back up. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Matt Shea. I'm a state representative from the 4th Legislative District. I am a combat veteran. I spent 10 years in the United States Army. I am also the assistant floor leader, and that position actually helps craft the debate on the floor, and that'll be important when I talk about the gun issue here at the end. We're coming to a point in our country where we've got to make a choice. Are you a patriot or are you a loyalist? What does that mean? What does that mean? You are a patriot or you are a loyalist. You are either loyal to the established governmental, large, huge taxes, crony capitalist order, or you are a patriot that believes in the Constitution and a return to the principles that founded our country. That's the choice, as I see it, and many of my compatriots see it, in Olympia. When I went to Olympia 6 years ago, I said I was going to do some things, and they revolved around lower taxes, less government, and more freedom. 6 years later, I can stand before you and say I did exactly what I said I was going to do. One of those things was to build a network right now in Washington State of over 50,000 activists that we have, and we can send action alerts out on bills, and it is having a dramatic effect changing policy in Olympia. Dramatic. In fact, we have people that come running up to us in the hallways and they'll say, Matt, what is this 2780 drone? I got to sign on. I got all these people emailing me about it. Where can I sign on? That is not because of me. That's because of you, the grassroots. We are doing this together. And when we do it together with a plan, and we go on the offense, and we're proud that we're Republicans, and we're proud to talk about our principles, we win. We win. Lower taxes, less government, and more freedom. And more freedom being defined as this: pro-life, pro-liberty, pro-property, pro-gun, pro-veteran, and securing elections. And that's why I appreciate the fact that Aileen is running for auditor, because we do not have secure elections, especially in Washington State. We do not. I would like to honor a couple people this evening, and one of them actually left, and that's Rob Chase. He is a hero of mine for a couple reasons. One of them being he was the first treasurer in 54 years to be a Republican. 54 years. And Rob Chase is the first Republican treasurer. But not only that, he went over to Olympia and changed 120 years of law regarding property taxes so that now people don't have to be faced with paying all their property taxes at once. They can actually do partial payments and stay in their homes. That is a tremendous victory for this community. I would also like to honor tonight Rod Higgins and Ed Pace. Ed won a very hard-fought race, particularly, but take a look at Detroit. When you think of Detroit, what do you think of? Abandoned buildings, no jobs, and this just desolate environment, and debt that they can't pay off, and their grandkids can't even pay off. You come to Spokane Valley, and what do we have? We've got a $32 million budget in Spokane Valley, and those two gentlemen, along with the other people on the city council, not only have a balanced budget, they have $28 million in reserves. They literally could go for 8 months without any tax revenue coming in. 8 months and still function as a government. That's a model for the rest of the country. Don't you think so? that's because the grassroots have shown up. We have all shown up. We are winning. So I want to talk to you tonight about the Freedom Agenda. The most successful slate of conservative bills in 20 years. 65 bills. We had 42 hearings. Usually we get maybe one or two. We had 42 hearings. 30 bills passed out of the House or Senate. And we had, so far, 10 signed into law without veto by our governor, including a ban on Sharia law and specialty courts in Washington State. That is a huge victory for us. On top of all of that, we had 25 national news stories on Freedom Agenda bills. 25. 20 of those were this year alone. That's what happens when we show up. We're changing the debate. We reformed taxpayer-funded lobbying. We opened up thousands of miles of roads to ATV use in Northeast Washington, which is going to have an estimated impact in the economy of over $50 million over the next 10 years. And I think that's conservative. We actually have right now, sitting on the governor's desk, a drone bill that would ban regulatory enforcement via drone in Washington State. I want to paint a picture for you. The Department of Ecology flying over your farm or your house, looking for any little violation they could find you on. That is what the Department of Ecology wants to do. They had plans to order drones for that very purpose. You want to talk about the end of private property rights in Washington State? Have them fly drones over your farm. Have them fly drones over just your backyard. But it's more than that. Think about labor and industries flying a drone over your trucking yard, looking for oil spills or looking for hazards there for employees, and looking for any little thing they could nitpick to find you on. That's what they want to do. So that is sitting on the governor's desk right now. And there was a bunch of negative editorials from the mainstream media. I know that's a shock to many of you. Negative editorials saying, wow, we just can't do this. And then suddenly, praise God, suddenly, over the weekend, the Seattle Police Department gets caught keeping the two drones that they said that they turned back in and got rid of. Now, if that isn't a picture of why we should have this bill, I don't know what is. So now the governor's agonizing. Poll numbers are running 70 to 75% in our favor. And this is one of those issues where we built coalitions around issues, not around parties. We built it around issues. And I could reach across to the Democrats and say, hey, we agree on the drone issue, we agree on the privacy issue, we may not agree on anything else, we agree on that issue. And we had well over 24 Democrat co-sponsors of our bills as part of the Freedom Agenda because of that. That's how we can win. That's how we can win. And it's working. One of the other issues that's coming up, and that we actually had some success that didn't make the news, is on the gun issue. Short barrel rifles. A couple years ago we got silencers, they're called noise suppressors, at least that's the way we messaged it. Noise suppressors legalized in Washington State. Short barrel rifles. Actually, in a gun control year, we got that out of committee by getting it around the committee chair and having the speaker pull it directly to the floor for a vote. We voted on it, passed it out of the Senate, and now it's sitting on the governor's desk to legalize short barrel rifles. Now, some of you say, well, okay, I like John Wayne, I like seeing those rifles, but what does that matter to me? That is a step toward freedom. It's a small step, but it's a step toward freedom. And by the way, the spokesman review ran this thing about this gun control bill. How many of you read about this gun control bill the governor signed into law? Did you guys hear about that? It wasn't a gun control bill. It was House Bill 1840, and myself and the NRA worked on the language to amend, it's called the striking amendment, but to amend the entire bill to change the way that guns are confiscated from people during hearings regarding, it could be anything, but mainly temporary restraining orders. And one of the problems is current law right now is that if you go into a courtroom and somebody accuses you of something, the judge can take your firearms on hearsay evidence alone. Literally, you didn't look at me real nice, you know. I kind of look like he's a mean guy that might be unstable. We're just going to go ahead and take his weapons from him. And I literally watched in court one time a judge say, guns scare me, bang, and took this guy's guns away. Watched it happen. So what we did is we amended the law to narrow the scope of the cases where a judge can actually take away firearms, number one. And number two, to require a finding of fact on the record of a credible threat, which means it's more than hearsay evidence. You have to have some evidence to corroborate that this guy is, or gal, mostly guys, is actually a credible threat. That is actually sitting on, I think it just got signed into law by the governor, and is a huge sea change in firearms law. And a good victory, I think, for all of us. You're not just going to get your weapons taken away on a whim. One of the other things I'd like to talk about is the abortion issue. Washington State actually legalized abortion a few years before Roe v. Wade. I don't know if you knew that or not, but we actually led the country, unfortunately. People have said in the Republican Party we've got to stay away from the issue of life. I don't think so. I think if we get the life issue wrong, we get every other issue wrong. But more importantly, let's just step back and do the political pragmatism I hear at the national level sometimes. The youth demographic, the Gen Xers, Gen Yers, they are 75% pro-life regarding everything after the first trimester. It drops down to 65% for the first trimester, but the youth are pro-life. If we want to reach out to the youth demographic, as a party, we need to start talking about pro-life. We need to start talking about the life issue and not be ashamed of it. If we get the life issue wrong, like I said, we get every other issue wrong. And so this year we went on the offense again, and we introduced an amendment to the budget that defunded Planned Parenthood and gave that money to disabled veterans and told the Democrats vote against that. Now, unfortunately, the problem wasn't on the Democrat side of the aisle for us. It was on our own side. We thought, the votes to get that thing passed. Unfortunately, some folks disagreed about having a roll call vote, which is a vote on the record for the amendment. And we did it by voice vote and lost. Some of our leadership did that. And we had a vociferous debate about it, and that was the decision, so we abided by it. But a Democrat came up afterwards, and he said to us, "Why didn't you guys do a roll call vote? We think we had it." We came within 4 votes of defunding Planned Parenthood for the first time in 20 years. Wow. That is going on the offense. And that's what wins. Lastly, I'd like to talk to you about land transfers. Transferring land from the federal government back to the states. It's a huge issue. I know Ken Ivory's been working on it. He's a great friend of mine. I've been working with him very closely. But Washington State came into the Union with Montana. And as part of the Enabling Act, where they came into the Union, they also came in the Union with North Dakota and South Dakota. That Enabling Act said that the federal government was only a trustee of the land until the states demanded it back. Okay, that was it. That's what it says. North Dakota and South Dakota did that. We want our land back, and now they have only about 5% of federal ownership of land in those 2 states. In Washington State, we're at 40%. So we just, talking to Ken Ivory, we're going to do that. We're going to demand our land back. And lo and behold, we had an interesting coalition come together, including the WEA. The teachers want this because part of the language in the Enabling Act says that the percentage of sales goes directly to education. Hey, look, I'll take the WEA for that one.
Absolutely.
Why not? Building coalitions around issues. So that's another one that's going to be coming up pretty soon. I want to highlight a specific organization that has been a thorn in our side of the Olympian, a thorn in the side of freedom that many of you have not heard about. And it's called the Washington Association of Police Chiefs and Sheriffs, okay? Or Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, WASPIC. Our sheriff is actually the current president, and I think he's rotating out. But the bottom line is WASPIC actually lobbied for gun control last year. lobbied for gun control last year and actually said that if they were going to support the gun control bill last year that we defeated, it must have a registry in it.
Wow.
Now, WASPIC is kind of the management, if you will. The rank and file police officers, WACOPS, is a separate organization, totally support us, have worked with us. I've worked with them many times on a ton of different pro-liberty, pro-freedom issues. Great folks. But at this upper level, they're fighting us on gun control. And not only gun control, they tried to kill the drone bill. They were the sole organization that tried to get rid of the drone bill. And the guy, the lobbyist in charge, one of them, Mitch Barker, said, "We do not want any regulations of drones in Washington State, period. Trust us." Well, the Seattle PD incident, I think, proves that Reagan's very simple principle of trust but verify. That organization, everybody needs to know about it, because not only is that organization lobbying for gun control, lobbying against drones, and these are many other issues out there, they are taxpayer funded. Okay? I want to close with this, and then I'd like to take a few questions if I got some time, but if we're going to win, if we're going to lead the world, we have to be unified, and I want to define what that means. People around the world are looking for leadership from America, and they are not looking for that leadership from our president. They are looking for that leadership from Republicans, conservative Republicans. Leaders in Ukraine aren't looking to President Obama. They are looking to conservative Republicans for leadership. They're looking to us for leadership. So if we have a great platform and we believe in lower taxes, less government, more freedom, then we should be unified about that. We should not be costing our chance at a majority in the House of Representatives in Washington State by doing some very, I think, divisive things just because people don't like somebody's personality or people don't like somebody's views on certain things. If we're Republicans and we want to have unity, we've got to lead as unified people and not compromise on principle and go on the offense. That is what is going to unify us. Leadership is not about the ability to compromise, it is about the ability not to. The ability to articulate your principles in such a way to bring people over to your point of view. Right. And if somebody says, "Oh, you can't ever do that, you can't do that, it's not going to work, we're never going to be in the majority," the freedom agenda conclusively proves them wrong. And then I would ask, and add actually, how many times have Republicans held the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion in the last 40 years? 2 years. 2. So the guys that are saying that have had 40 years. It's our turn now to turn that around. The last thing I will say is that on April 19th, it's my 40th birthday, Patriots Day, and I have a fundraiser up at Tretsy Farms, 6 o'clock. You're all invited. Rick Rydell will be emceeing, Clint Didier will be speaking, and we will have most of the Freedom Agenda team actually there as well to talk and meet with people and say thank you to all of you for being such wonderful supporters out there. And I will end before I take questions just by simply saying that it's up to all of us to make freedom happen. VoteShay.com. All right?